Oh man, this laptop is getting slow. And now it hangs again. How am I gonna finish the 72 different Photoshop project files that I have open at the same time on my laptop now? If only there was a more powerful laptop, man. My prayers have been answered! Okay, so for a little over a year now, I've been daily driving the 13-inch MacBook Air M2, and while I'm still a Windows boy at heart, even I will admit that switching over to a MacBook has done wonders for my productivity. Compared to my past experiences with Windows laptops, the MacBook Air has pretty much been a step up in so many ways, with a solid display, impressive touchpad, and some actually decent speakers. But perhaps most importantly, for someone whose job is typing away both at the desk and on the go, battery life has been phenomenal, something that previously wasn't fully possible on the Windows side of things, unless you're willing to sacrifice some things like performance. And then Apple dropped the new M3 family of MacBook Pros, and so I thought it's upgrade time. So meet the new MacBook Pro 14 running the latest M3 Pro, coming in Cupertino's shiny new space black colorway. We'll start with the biggest change yet, which is of course under the hood. The laptop here that I have been using for about a month now comes with the M3 Pro, packing a 12-core CPU, 18-core GPU, 16-core neural engine along with 18 gigs of unified memory and a 1TB SSD. Now, that sounds like a decent step up from my relatively puny 8-core base M2 in my MacBook Air, but just how much of an improvement are we talking about? Well, not actually that much, at least according to the benchmarks. In single-core performance, the M3 Pro does beat the M2, with about 15% improvement, while for the multi-core numbers, unsurprisingly, the M3 Pro does quite a lot better as it packs a whole lot of cores here. As for actual performance though, during day-to-day tasks, the M3 Pro just sorta seemed alright. I mean, I was never gonna put it through its paces as hard as say my video editor would, but I still didn't hold back with the MacBook Pro. Perhaps the most noticeable difference I saw in day-to-day usage was that it's just a touch smoother than the MacBook Air, being able to get up to speed faster, especially when coming out of sleep, and seeing that spinning rainbow logo just a little bit less often, even after pasting the 400th layer onto my Adobe Photoshop project file. Now, because this is very much my productivity machine and not my gaming rig, I have a separate gaming PC for that. I didn't really play games on the MacBook Pro. It's what I would have said had it not been for Football Manager 2024. Yes, while I was guiding Burnley FC to mid-table security, I was first doing it with the MacBook Air, and then with the MacBook Pro. And while both managed to play the game just fine with a slightly large database running at the high graphics preset, the MacBook Pro was noticeably faster when loading things around, and I experienced little to no frame drops while running a match. In contrast, the MacBook Air would start off just fine, but the longer I played, the slower it would load, and while watching match replays, it would start to suffer from some frame drops. Now, I think that it's not just the fact that it has a better GPU, but also that it has active cooling. However, that's also actually one of the minor nitpicks I have since switching over to the MacBook Pro. I'm not too sure how Apple has tuned its fan curves here, but it's a little weird, with near silent operation up until it gets a touch too warm for comfort on the bottom, and then suddenly the fans will start spinning like its lives depended on it, with an aggressive sounding whine to it too. To be fair to the MacBook Pro, that doesn't happen very often, but when it does, you will be able to hear it. Battery life, meanwhile, is just as great as my old MacBook Air, with it easily able to last the full day and more thanks to its 72.4 Wh battery. Now, I know this might sound like sacrilege to many Apple fans out there, but I don't actually like MagSafe that much. I personally prefer USB-C, but I guess it's a nice to have feature for many people. Plus, the braided MagSafe cable itself is color matched with the Space Black MacBook Pro. Speaking of Space Black, I like it. I like it a lot actually, even if it's not as black and not as dark as some people would like it, but it's nice. Apple also made it a point to highlight that their space black finish isn't just a new color, but that it's also been developed with some breakthrough chemistry here to form an anodized seal that greatly reduces fingerprints.
Oh yeah.
Well, does it work? Well, kinda, but I wouldn't really say greatly reduced. Compared to the MacBook Air I've been using, the MacBook Pro will still get a little dirty, if perhaps a touch less than the Air. Though, regardless of which laptop you use, the primary area that gets all gunked up won't really be the chassis anyway, but more of the keyboard. As for its display, moving from the 13.6-inch Liquid Retina display to the 14.2-inch Mini LED Liquid Retina XDR display was yet another huge step up, though perhaps not one that was as impressive to me anyway. See, the MacBook Air already has a fantastic display for a laptop, but with the MacBook Pro just kind of builds on it with not just high resolution, but high peak brightness, ProMotion technology for up to 120Hz, and all that jazz. Great for watching my Burnley team lose yet another match on Football Manager, am I right? But really, it wasn't the jump to M3 Pro or getting that Liquid Retina XDR display that truly convinced me about switching to the MacBook Pro. It's the speakers.
And on we'll go through the wastelands, through the highways. And on we'll
The MacBook Air already had a very solid 4-speaker setup, but with the MacBook Pro it has a high-fidelity 6-speaker sound system with force-cancelling woofers, and these are just genuinely, they're just literal music to my ears. Honest to God, I've never experienced the MacBook Pro speakers in person before this, but I knew they were good, but I didn't know that they were this good. I even lost count the number of times I literally looked up in shock while listening to music or watching YouTube, just in awe of how good they sound for a laptop of this size. Other nice to have improvements over my old MacBook Air is of course with the I/O. Going from just 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports to 3, a full HDMI port, and a full-size SD card slot made work just ever so slightly better, as it meant I grabbed the USB-C hub a lot less when transferring files using an SD card or when hooking up my laptop to a secondary monitor. If I had to point out the biggest negative of switching over to MacBook Pro though, it's probably just that I miss how light the MacBook Air was. Oh wait, no, there's a price. Yeah, I forgot. The MacBook Pro costs a lot more. With the introduction of the M3 family of MacBook Pros, Apple's powerhouse computers now starts at 7,499 ringgit. But that's only for the base M3. And in classic Apple fashion, you lose out on some features too, such as Space Black and one less Thunderbolt 4 port. That means if you want the M3 Pro, you're gonna have to fork out at least 9,999 ringgit. But even that's not the full-bore M3 Pro, but rather a cut-down 11 CPU core version. For our unit here with a complete M3 Pro, 18 gigs of memory and a 1TB of SSD storage, you're looking at a price tag of 11,599 ringgit. You could even move up to the M3 Max for just under 15 grand, and that's even before you even consider the larger 16-inch MacBook Pro. So okay, it's expensive, but I actually think that if you need it, and I have to emphasize, only if you need the power, the M3 Pro MacBook Pro is actually a decent machine. See, the MacBook Air really is the best option for most people who want the MacBook for regular day-to-day use, like word processing, web browsing, and video watching. But for instance, let's say you do a lot of content creation and edit videos, audio, or photos, then yeah, the MacBook Pro certainly makes a lot more sense than the MacBook Air. This is in part thanks to the active cooling, giving it more sustained performance, which, if you find yourself rendering videos a lot, actually is quite important. Also makes a lot of sense for those of you stuck on Intel-based MacBook Pros and would like to make a jump to something a little more contemporary. Also, I wouldn't really recommend the base M3 MacBook Pro here, as it's not particularly more powerful than, say, the M2 MacBook Air, and it comes with just 8 gigs of memory stock. The M3 Pro powered MacBook Pro though is kinda ticking all the right boxes right now for a high-performance professional laptop. You'll be getting a tremendously good display, fantastic battery life, incredible speakers, and just great build quality overall. It's not cheap, Apple stuff never is, but if, and only if, you need an M3 Pro MacBook Pro, I think you'll be impressed too. That's it from me today for our review of the MacBook Pro. Let us know in the comments below what you think of Apple's new Space Black laptop. Remember to like and subscribe for more from us here at Soya Chin Chow. This has been Raymond, signing out.